So you own a Canon M6 Mark II and want to know the best photo settings? Stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing great and keeping safe just as I am. So today I'll show you the best photo setting that I do on every new Canon DSLR camera that I've used so far. I've used the Canon 500D, the Canon 60D, the 5D Mark III that I'm using to record there, and the new Canon M6 Mark II that I've got here in my hand. Let me take you into the camera settings now and I'll share my screen with you. So the first important setting that I change to get the best of my photos is the image quality. So I'm going to click on that, and as you can see, the first option that it has taken by default is JPEG, and it has disabled RAW. Now I want to basically do the opposite, so I want to enable RAW and I'm going to disable JPEG. And I'll tell you why I do that, because if I leave RAW and I also leave a JPEG, then it's going to save two images of the same on your card, and that's going to take up space. So in this case, make sure that you choose RAW and you disable JPEG. And you want to choose RAW because at the time of editing, a RAW photo allows you to control the images to your taste much better than what a JPEG would do. So make sure you're keeping your cameras in RAW. The next thing I'm going to make sure I am clicking is the still image aspect ratio. So just to give you an example, 3:2 is what you would standard keep for your photos, which is what I do for mine. If you want to keep 16:9, for example, that's mainly to give you an idea. Most of your YouTube widescreen videos are all 16:9, so it sort of crops it up to that level. But you want to make sure that you're getting the entire image that you're clicking, so hence I keep it to 3:2. Just a tip for Instagrammers, if you want to just make sure you're clicking a photo which is ready for Instagram, then just choose the 1:1 option, and that gives you the default size for you to straight away upload to your Instagram account. So for my case, I'm going to do 3:2 and I'm going to choose that. Image review, I'm just going to keep it 2 seconds, nothing really to do there. The lens aberration correction is really important. So most of the cameras allow you to basically have a profile for your lens that you're using. So I like to keep mine on, and just to also turn on the correction for distortion if you have, so that avoids any distortion on your camera. So I'm going to click on there. I'm going to go back to menu. Nothing really to control on the flash. The drive mode. Now with the drive mode, I generally keep it to high speed continuous. There are a lot of other options like high speed continuous plus, you got the low speed, you got the self timer, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. So I like to keep mine to the high speed continuous because just in case I'm clicking anything, I always like to take 2-3 shots of the same image, so I get a nice crisp, sharp image that I can keep. So I always keep it to high speed continuous. We also got the raw burst mode there, which is a new feature that's added on the Canon M6 Mark II. I generally won't be using it because I really don't do much of sports or wildlife photography, but if you were doing it, then that's a really good option. So I'm going to avoid that one for now. The next menu I have is the exposure compensation, which nothing really I have to change in there. The next thing I'm going to do is the metering mode. Again, nothing really to change. You can always change it later if you want, but it has different metering modes. I like to keep it on center weighted, which works really best for me compared to the other 3 that are there. So I'm going to keep mine to center weighted. So the next we have is white balance. I really don't change anything here because it depends on where I'm shooting. I could be shooting out in daylight or in a shady or cloudy area, and then I can choose my white balance accordingly. Also, if I'm inside my house and if I have a tungsten light, then I can choose that option, for example, and that will match the scene. So for now, I'm just going to keep it on auto white balance. The one important picture style is something that I change, and by default, as you can see, Canon's got quite a lot of standard portrait, landscape, fine detail. The one that works best for me is the neutral, because that one gives you a nice flat sort of image that you can then work on your colors or your highlights or shadows in post-production, which is quite nice to have. So I'm going to keep my picture style to neutral. Now if you're doing a lot of long exposure photos like I do, this long exposure noise reduction does help for, like, if you've got an underexposed image, then it sort of does the noise reduction on that. But I tend to do my noise reduction in post-production, so hence I leave this off. So the same with the high ISO speed, so I'm not going to do anything in there. If you are taking HDR image, again it's a high dynamic range image, taking 3 different shots of different exposures, and this is an option that you can do. For now, I'm not going to do an HDR image, so I'm just going to disable it for now, but if I ever need, then this is where I need to come and change it. So again, with focus bracketing, I'm not going to touch it anything there. So the next option I've got is touch shutter, interval timer, and anti-flicker shoot. So these 3 options don't really give me the best of my photos. It's just an option which is available in your camera, so hence I'm not going to use it there. So I'm going to just jump on to the next one. So the next few options we've got here is all based on autofocus. So starting with the first one, the autofocus operation, you've got 2 options. One is the one shot and one is servo. Servo works best if you're doing wildlife photography or sports, but for me, since I don't do those 2, one shot works best for me, so I'm going to keep it to one shot. The next I have is the autofocus method. So you got few there, tracking, you got the spot AF, you got the 1-point AF, and then you got a zone. So for me, the one that works best for me is the eye tracking, because that one allows me to make sure that I've got my portraits to the eye, and it gives me a really good focus. And also, if you are doing vlogging with your camera for YouTube, then this one makes sure that you are in focus every time you take a video, so it's a really good option to keep. You also got the next one, which is eye detection autofocus, so I'm going to enable that. I've also got the continuous autofocus enabled, so that always, as I said, helps me keep track of a moving subject. If they're moving 1-2 steps behind or 1-2 steps in front, you're always going to have the person in focus, so I'm going to keep that on. The next ones are not really important, so I'm going to skip those. The next we have is manual focus peaking settings. Now, I was really excited when I saw this option available on this camera, because it was not available on my previous camera that I had. And what this allows me to do is, when I'm taking macro photos, and I obviously take my macro photos on a manual focus to make sure that I get the focus point correct, this one basically highlights the portion that I have in focus in either a red color, yellow color, or blue color, depending on my taste. I like red, so I keep to red, but it basically highlights the focus point, making me sure that that's the point that I have highlighted, and that is how your photo is going to be clicked. So it's a really nice handy option to have, and if you are into macro photos, make sure you come and you change the settings to your taste. The next option we have is image stabilization settings. Now, this is a really good feature to have if you're using a lens that does not have an inbuilt image stabilizer on it. Then you want to make sure you enable this. Most of my lenses are having an image stabilizer, so hence I'm going to turn this off. And the last few settings here we've got are mainly for movies. Since we're only talking about the best settings for your photos, I'm going to skip on this. But if you want to know your best settings for your videos, then let me know in the comments, and I'll try to make another video where I'll show you the best settings for your videos. Well, I hope you learned something new there, and we'll try those settings out on your Canon M6 Mark II or any other new camera that may have the similar settings. And if this video has helped you, please make sure you give it a like and leave your comments and let me know. If you are new to my channel, please make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to get notified on my next upcoming video. And as I always say, keep practicing and keep clicking.